Right. Happy Christmas, everyone. You will be listening to this on Christmas Day. I'm recording it a few days before. Today's episode is actually something that I recorded. I think it is actually my first ever recording. And you will hear from the recording that I basically was tidying my office one day and I had made the mental commitment to, in the future, record the podcast. And it was during lockdown, beginning of lockdown 2 in the UK or something like that. Anyway, so you'll see it's my usual self, but I'm kind of videoing myself in not this podcast setup. This sound, I'm really glad the sound is okay because it was just straight off my phone. And weirdly, I had none of the imposter syndrome that I've spoken about elsewhere because it's a very wisdom category based episode, all about happiness, as you probably have seen from the title of this episode. And just the other night, a few days ago, I was in bed and I recorded another wisdom based category episode, and that's going to come probably in January, and it does relate to all of this kind of stuff. But anyway, all stuff to do with happiness, gratitude, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth. And tomorrow, I don't know if I'm giving the game away here, Boxing Day, right after recording this episode, I realised I'd spoken for 25 minutes or so about happiness, and I hadn't mentioned gratitude, which is a huge part of living a happy life, in my opinion, and those of others. And empirical data supports my opinion. So it's a fact. Let's call it a fact, shall we? Let's call it what it is. But yeah, this episode, I'm just trying to give it some context because I literally just launched into it. It's a bit of a random start. It'll be a little bit edited because I was just kind of like dancing around to begin with. But there's just some really strong take-homes here, and I'm so happy to be able to release this on Christmas Day 2020, one of the most sucky years in the history of the world during the time I've been alive anyway. And yeah, so I explained in the video why it came about. It was a thing on my story. And I wanted to just give a little bit of context as well to something that I've since seen, which was, well, it was a recording online of Tom Cruise, and I think it's relatively recent, and he is screaming, and obviously someone who's there is recording him, and he got loads of abuse for this shouting. And at first I was like, oh, he's shouting, he's swearing. And he got all of this abuse for it, saying, how he was a bad boss or how this didn't foster a good environment. But I listened to the whole recording and I saw myself in him, and maybe this is confirmation bias, but he is essentially screaming at his staff because he's lost the plot. And, it's never good to lose the plot. I get that. I admit that. I think I mentioned this within some of these recordings, that I have a naturally short temper. For whatever reason, I've worked on it. I have a much better, longer fuse now. And but he's shouting because people are disobeying the rules of the pandemic, the coronavirus social distancing rules. And he's essentially shouting at people because they are ignoring the rules, being stupid, being lazy, being complacent, being irresponsible. And I don't blame him for shouting. And you can tell the reason he's shouting is because he cares. Because these people are being naive and complacent and lazy and stupid, as I've just said. And I think I actually mentioned within one of these videos about righteous passion or righteous anger. That's it. It's a very biblical term, I believe. But anyway, so I just kind of, I don't know why I wanted to bring that up, but again, it's something to do with this whole thing around happiness, and maybe something around authenticity, that I just want to remind people that living a happy life is not about being happy 24/7. There are some people, and I know a few, and they're just so freaking happy, and like they're just made of a different stuff to the rest of us. I'm sure some of you know them. They're 1 in a billion. And that would make there about 7.5 of them in the world. So maybe it's more like 5 per billion. But anyway, I just want to kind of say these kind of things about gratitude and happiness and this kind of stuff. It's not something that we can do 24/7. And this other recording that you'll get in a few weeks from releasing this one, I talk about the journey with some of this stuff, the training of our minds, the training, the practice that we can do to get better at being happy. It sounds kind of crazy, right? To basically be able to, we'll always get blindsided, we'll always get knocked down, we'll always get shocked. There'll always be hard times. But bringing ourselves back to a place of happiness. And I'm just going to finish this introduction just with a few things about... I'm just going to do it really briefly. Self-esteem, I talk about self-esteem. And my strong recommendation or belief that you need to base your self-esteem on what you can offer others, what you can bring to the table. And I go all into this, so I'm not going to say any more than that. And understanding that self-confidence is confidence about yourself. And how I talk about this is situational. And I actually put on my story the other day, you know, I was sat in a beauty salon and I was like, one place that I'm not very confident, beauty salons, because I just feel out of place. And I also, it's similar, I've said before about approaching people who might be homeless or at least appear homeless to me. And I really lack confidence in those situations when going to talk to them or offer them anything. And my confidence and my nervousness comes from making other people uncomfortable. And again, I feel like when I'm in a beauty salon, I'm like, I hope I'm not making anyone uncomfortable. So then I feel a bit nervous or lack confidence. So there's that confidence thing. And then there's this thing of self-worth. And I just wanted, this is one of the reasons, because there's so many different things, right? There's another one. Self-image is another one. There's so many different things. But then this thing of self-worth. And maybe I'll talk elsewhere about self-worth, because it's not something I talk about a great deal. Because I do prefer to focus on... Hi everyone. So my last video got cut off, annoyingly. And if there's anything you should know about me, I hate second takes. But I'm going to do my best. So I've just had a quick skim about roughly what I was saying at the end there. I've actually taken a couple of hours in between. That's how much I hate doing second takes. Anyway. So sorry if I repeat anything. But essentially I was talking about self-worth. And I was coming to the climax. Don't you hate it when you get interrupted when it's about to, get to the climax? Haha. Some Christmas Day smut for you. On a very serious topic, self-worth. And it's funny as well, because basically I recorded the rest of what I'm about to say and didn't realise, so it cut off. And I said all of this amazing stuff and it got really deep, just how everyone likes it. And then it got cut off. And that's what frustrates me the most, because then this stuff is just all off the cuff, and then, I'm in a flow. Anyway, I've no idea where I'd gone with it. So we're starting again, really, on the self-worth stuff. But it's this final piece of the puzzle, and I just hope that this is a theme that's been coming through my content for 1 or 2, maybe 3 years quite strongly now, is the happiness stuff, the self-confidence stuff, the self-worth stuff, the don't ruin your life in the pursuit of fat loss stuff, the fact that fat loss won't make you happier, not ruining your relationship with food in the pursuit of physique goals. But self-worth is, to recap, self-esteem. There's different ways of viewing self-esteem, by the way. And self-esteem sometimes is a little bit, the way it's taught or written about is on the not arrogant spectrum, but it's more of the kind of ego. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, on the ego spectrum. So, for instance, one writer described it. I don't know who, I don't know if they're famous, but I'm just recording it. And it was something to do with the analogy of, it's like having high self-esteem is like walking down the street like you own it. Having high self-worth is walking down the street and not caring who owns it. However, I prefer to take a much more humble approach to self-esteem. Not myself, that's not a compliment to myself, calling myself humble. I think you should see it. You should view self-esteem with humility, as in, you don't own the street. It's just that everyone on that street, you have something to offer to them, so therefore you should have high self-esteem. And this is why I think I talk in places about. Well, I do. So listen, I think it may be this episode that I'm introducing. But high self-worth is just it's not caring who owns the street. The problem is very often people put their self-worth in things like their physique, their hair. I got a question in my question box today about when did you go bald and how did you deal with it? Any tips, this, that, and the other? So I'm going to, maybe I'll record a podcast on that. A midweek musing. You don't know what they are yet, but Martin's midweek musings are going to become a thing. They're supposed to be shorter midweek episodes, but the fact that tomorrow's episode was 3 minutes long and I did a 16-minute intro, you can see how I struggle to do things quickly. But a musing on going bald and how I dealt with it, and just the stuff around that, because maybe it'll help someone just chatting for 5 minutes, because on a 15-second Instagram story, how much can you really help someone? So self-worth, your hair, the way you look, your physique, your job, your career, your perception of your success, your house, your car. And all of these material or physical things, they're just a big issue. And maybe I'll talk about self-worth again. I don't know. The problem is I don't deem myself an expert on these things. I just read about them and ponder them. And that's what these wisdom podcasts are about. But your self-worth is massively intrinsic, but it has been put there by parents, by friends growing up, by relationships that you've been in. And the thing I want to touch on a little bit is, I hope through some of these wisdom podcasts, through what I talk about with regards to happiness and gratitude, you can start changing the way you view yourself with regards to your worth. So your self-worth is that you are worth You are worthy of love. You are worthy of being listened to. You are worthy of being heard. You are worthy of people's time. You are worthy of being alive. And so what I hope through today's podcast on happiness is that you value your worth enough to start valuing your happiness. And that maybe in 2021, you can start valuing yourself enough to make some changes. Maybe changes that are very difficult in the first place, to people who reduce your self-worth, who criticize you, who make you feel not worthy. Those might be people you follow on the internet who don't even know who you are, but they might be people in your life, they might be friends, etc. I talk about in this podcast about happiness with regards to friendship groups, but there might be some stuff in there with regards to self-worth for you. Now, I don't know if in the beginning bit of this I talked about thoughts, feelings, behaviors and outcomes. And see, that's why I hate double takes. Because have I spoken about them? Should I talk about them again? But then I'm boring and then I'm repetitive. Although being repetitive sometimes is good when you're talking about speaking positivity into people's ears. What a pain. Anyway, in the podcast that I'll be releasing about stoicism, flipping heck. And see, I feel like I might have spoken about stoicism in this other one. What a mess this is. Happy Christmas, everyone. No, I'm joking. I should be talking about happiness. Anyway, this is quite a somber introduction into what becomes a very upbeat podcast episode. All about happiness and why I am generally just very happy in life. And how I really, really hope I can help you find some happiness in different ways. Ways that I failed previously and ways I'm succeeding consistently now in spite of many, many reasons to be unhappy. So, I'm going to leave it there because let me just get a pen. And I'm just going to write down about this, the thoughts to feelings, to behaviors, to outcomes. And we'll see. Maybe when Lucy or Katie or Olivia listens to this and does some time points for you, they can tell me if I've spoken at length about those things. I certainly speak about them a bit in the January release episode. It might be the first release in January. Maybe. First or second anyway. That would be about stoicism and that kind of stuff. Right. I love you all lots. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic Christmas and festive time. Or any time when you listen to this in the future, if someone has sent it to you in the future. Right, without further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode. Please, a plea from me. If you find it good, if you've got some time on Boxing Day or Christmas Day or any time during this festive period, do me two favours. One, leave a review on iTunes. 1B, if you want to provide some feedback or ask a question or just say how you're going to use this, stick a comment on the post that I'm going to do on Christmas Day or Boxing Day rather than in my DMs. Pretty please. And 2, if you're a Spotify user but you own an iPhone, do me a favour, pretty please, and go to the podcast app on your phone and just subscribe to my podcast. You don't have to download the podcast, anything like that. Just click subscribe. Maybe go into subscribe, maybe settings, and make sure it doesn't start downloading every episode to your phone. The reason I say that is because since starting this, people have started to tell me that one of the ways that iTunes kind of ranks you and rates you and promotes you and tells people that your podcast is maybe something that would be useful for them to listen or is popular is based on the number of people that subscribe to it. So that don't just search you organically and naturally and see it and go and listen. So it isn't necessarily fully based on listens, but on subscribes. And I assume it bases it a little bit on ratings that people leave, their reviews. That would be a really nice thing that you could do for me this festive period. So thank you so much. Sending you lots of love. I hope this time you can find things to be grateful for, to be happy about. And I hope some of the information and content I put out during this time on my stories, on Facebook, on Instagram, can help you in some way. Okay, until tomorrow, sending you much love. Bye-bye. So, prepare yourself for a supremely boring video. Probably not the best way to start a video. How shall I do it? What do all the marketers say? Punchy thing in the first 3 seconds. Right, first 3 seconds of the video. This is how... No, damn it, my song's finished. That was my happy song. Another happy song. I've got a great playlist on Spotify that'll probably make you happy. Anyway, this is a video about happiness. I put a question box up on my story that said, how do you perceive my online persona? Because someone said, what's the difference between your online persona and your real life persona? So I was like, well, that depends on how you perceive me online. And it's interesting. So it ended up just being a massive, what's the word? Oh, me fest. Everyone was saying such lovely things. Anyway, happiness. You seem so happy all the time, or you're so happy. You know, I perceive you as happy over and over again. And I try. Another thing lots of people said was transparent. I try to be super transparent online about the fact I'm not always happy. You must have seen me when I get angry. I also put on angriness, you know, like the babies annoying me. They don't really annoy me, they're amazing. People annoy me, charlatans annoy me. But that's not really unhappiness, that's more Angus, righteous anger. But happiness, people are like, oh, you're a great boss. My staff will tell you sometimes I shout, which I know probably seems slightly funny for some of you, like, you shouting, really? But shout, and I'm so angry. I get angry in real life. One of the worst things about me in previous relationships was my temper, which I think I learned from growing up, and it's been something I've genuinely had to work through a lot on making my short temper less of a massive issue in my life. But anyway, back to happiness. Happiness, how can you be happy? There's lots of rubbish people on the internet, and I hate fake people on this who are preaching happiness and aren't genuinely happy. They don't have their roots in happiness. They just try to project that, and they read books about it, and they post quotes, and they talk about happiness all the time, but they're not happy. And it makes me sad that they're not happy, but I hate it that they have to be fake about it, and really in a manipulative way. Happiness, the reason I think I'm genuinely happy is a few reasons, and a lot of it just comes with acceptance. Lots of people, and confidence. Confidence was the other thing. If you're confident, it does help with happiness. If you have high self-esteem, it does help with happiness. And lots of people said this about my confidence. Confidence is situational. And this is where I came back to acceptance. I accept I'm gonna screw up. I accept I'm gonna be wrong. Even about something I'm supremely confident about. Nutrition. When you come to the acceptance of, it's like the Dunning-Kruger. When you're up here and you think you know everything, but when you know more, your confidence comes down. But then when you realize that you don't know everything, it allows your confidence to speak on a subject, because you also talk with some humility. But happiness, in my opinion, comes from finding your purpose. And finding your purpose means you can always come back to that. And sometimes it will be a route of unhappiness because you feel like you're not fulfilling your purpose. The reason I think I come across as so happy, often in public places, speaking on stage, is because I am truly living the life that I think I'm meant to do. Talking to large groups. I was given given naturally an ability to speak in public, which I thrive upon, and I can do good, I can help others. I think we all have an inherent desire to help others. Some people probably get lost along the way. But again, when we're searching for happiness, I think that if you're feeling low, the best way to get yourself out of it is to help someone else. Sometimes there's no other way. You just cannot find happiness in your own life. I know some of the most unhappy times in my life is when I focused internally on myself. I've focused on some negatives of why aren't I getting what I deserve? Why aren't I getting the love that I deserve? Rather than giving love, for instance. It's a bit of a deep one. So finding your purpose is a huge one. And I understand that some of you watching this will feel like you haven't found your purpose. And I haven't got any huge, insightful, the answer to finding your purpose. But once you have, it gives you this unending happiness that is not consistent. You wake up some days with no motivation. You wake up some days unhappy, in a bad mood. Even when you are fulfilling your purpose. I would just say this. My purpose, I think, is to go out there and help people. I love nutrition. I love public speaking. I feel like it's probably one of the reasons that lockdown eventually killed me off. It was horrible and it really broke me. 3-4 weeks into lockdown, I was like, oh, I'm owning this. This is class. I'm using my creativity. I was doing some funny stories. It was funny. I was taking the challenges in my path of staff and remote working, which I hate because I like people, but eventually it just broke me. And again, lots of unhappiness will be when you are not moving towards your goals. You're moving backwards. You feel like you're backpedaling. But again, some of it comes with acceptance. Understanding hard times are there to help you grow. Understanding that not going anywhere is sometimes okay. That's this, I've seen lots of people talk about this in a great way about fat loss. Understanding that maintaining is sometimes excellent. Maintaining is a positive. So yeah, happiness, helping others, making that a goal, I think can help everyone. Finding your purpose, I think is hugely, hugely, hugely beneficial because you wake up with purpose. You know, what's the meaning of life? What's my purpose here on the planet? If you're constantly asking yourself that question, it will hurt. And loneliness will feel worse because you feel lonely and what's the point? I've been there. But when you truly feel like you're living out your purpose, and this is why I tell M&U students to define success for you, because I struggled for a long time. Even, just struggled to quite get that deep fulfillment of happiness because I was achieving. I was successful in other people's eyes. I was happy day to day. I had pleasure and I had happiness. That's another cool thing to make sure you know what the definitions of those are. The difference between, money bringing you all sorts of pleasures, but not deep-rooted happiness, outside of lack of money causing unhappiness, because it can. Financial health is important. It's something I'm actually going to start putting as an aspect of our professional mentoring program, is looking after your financial health, because it's super important, and not being financially stable and not making your business viable, because lots of people who are out there to help people forget that actually marketing and selling, you don't have to sell in a cheesy way, but you have to sell your product, your service to pay your bills, put food on your table, and to be financially stable and not have worries. FYI, this video had absolutely no planning. I was tidying my office, listening to some music, reading some of the replies to this story, and I just thought I've made this commitment. I'm going to start a podcast. You may be listening to this once the podcast is live, and it's just going to have these things that come into my head, and I would just have tidied my office and just talked all of this stuff through in my head and what I think people should think. And I just thought, flipping it, let's just film it in this completely terrible backdrop, unplanned, meandering conversation. But hey, you might be out doing some cardio, you might be just going for a walk, you might be tidying, housework, and you're just listening to this audio, and I hope it just gives you some stuff to think about in your own head. What's the difference between my online persona and my real life persona? There's no difference in terms of happiness. It's just that you might miss the times when I talk about the fact that I've been unhappy. It is also the case that I've told people this many times. When I'm unhappy, I normally withdraw from social media. I withdraw from my stories because I hate being fake. I'm not going to come on and go, happy Wednesday, everyone, when I'm not happy. But sometimes I'll come on and go, wishing you a happy Wednesday. Not a very happy Wednesday for me type thing. I don't know why I've chosen Wednesday. Wednesday's normally a good day. So here's another thing. Happiness comes from deep and meaningful relationships. And when you exist too much online, it screws that. When you exist too much in your business, it screws that again. I don't think I've ever existed too much online, maybe a little bit, but definitely too much within my business. Again, my business brought me so much happiness. My staff brought me so much happiness. Some of the times when we've had some really bad eggs within the business, and believe it or not, people think I'm cutthroat, people think I'm so confident. I'm going to do a video on confidence, I think. I don't like confrontation, and I don't like firing people people, and many times there's been at least 4 instances in the last 5 to 8 years where I've known someone needed to be fired and I haven't been able to do it. And it's caused a horrible period of months because they were so bad in the business and they were bringing everyone else down. And they essentially, just started to feel uncomfortable, and they knew they didn't belong, and they ended up handing their notices in. And it was like a celebration when they did. But when things are good in the business, it's brought me life. And I think the parallel of that in your life is sometimes you'll have people bringing you down and you just need to let them go from your life. That I can talk about that with some friendships I've had. I've had some friends who were just super, super negative. One of the worst times in my life, I had some friends who were friends, acquaintances, not like in real life friends, they were online friends, but we became close, we met up in person. But all they ever did was moan, and they were just horrible about other people in the industry, but just horrible for horrible sake. Not calling out information, just bitching, and also telling me stories about stuff that was being said behind my back that I didn't need or care for. And it was kind of like, oh, what an idiot, can't believe they said that. But over time, it just grinds you down. Gossip sucks. And here's another thing about happiness. You need to learn to not care so much about what other people think. You need to learn that people will not view you in the way you want. I need to learn this more and more and more, that people will think the wrong thing about you. This question box, obviously people are mostly writing all the nice stuff. There's only been nice things so far, but people will take you the wrong way. I know there are people who I grate on, which I hate. It does hurt my feelings. I'm like, why? They think that I'm fake. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's crazy. But you need to care less about other people's opinions. And sometimes that's rooted in needing other people's affirmation. And this is when I talk about your purpose. If you are moving towards your purpose, if you know you are doing what's right in your heart, it is nice to get praise. It's nice to get compliments. I really, really love when people get me and see what I'm about, but they don't just go, great nutrition course. It's meaningless to me. But when they see truly what's behind that course and the ethos of it and the lifeblood of it, it does. I like it. But I don't need that to make me happy, because I know my purpose and I know that I'm doing right by what I want to do. I'm being true to myself, essentially. So if you are true to yourself, you don't overvalue other people's affirmation and praise. You don't need other people to accept what you're doing. You feel right in yourself and what you're doing, and you have 1 or 2 or 3 people who really get it with you and walk the journey with you, because no man is an island. You do, and that's why loneliness is horrible and why isolation is a sickeningly horrible thing in the time of recording this in the world pandemic, global pandemic. Isolation is one of the most horrible things, especially happening to inmates, people in prison. I don't know if that's a PC term, sorry if it's not, but it's just the title of an article I read. To the elderly particularly, many times people who lived alone. So having people that can walk that journey with you, really getting them invested in the highs and the lows of it, having someone that truly cares, it really helps with happiness. People online don't truly care. You need to realize that. God, this is a hardcore tune for such. I've just realized is it dichotomy, or what's the word? Juxtaposition in this content and that music. Anyway. Sleep. This is what I'm going to end on. Something physiological. Flipping sleep. Get your sleep right. And alcohol. Sleep and alcohol and drugs. For those of you all 3 of those things are so interlinked. And people will be like, oh, I had a heavy weekend of partying. I need to stop drinking. I feel like that. Sometimes, it's not just a single drink that's going to do it. And as well, people think, oh, I have a drink before bed and it helps me sleep. It lessens the quality of that sleep, so you don't get such good sleep. You need to, and that sounds like it's probably not a good way of putting things. I would suggest you consider getting to a place where you don't need any aids to help you sleep. For those of you who need them, for those of you who are going through really hard times, you have anxiety, you need them. And this isn't me telling you to stop taking medications, but also consider this. There are some very, very poor doctors out there who don't talk about the fact that you can taper off many, many medications. Antidepressants being a huge one that I find sickening, that we don't have malpractice suits over the fact that people aren't taught that there are ways to wean themselves off antidepressants. And antidepressants can be super helpful for some people, but they are not something that everyone needs to live with the rest of their life. Like if you've had thyroid cancer and you've had your thyroid removed, you have to take medication for the rest of your life, and it will be super helpful and it will give you life back. But antidepressants are not the same for everyone. But anyway, sleep, prioritize it. Lots of people, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I just can't can't feel happiness. I don't know why I'm so lackluster. Sleep. Get more flipping sleep. And consider your intake of drugs, including caffeine and alcohol, because they screw stuff up. They screw up stuff in your brain that there's nothing that's going to make any difference. Lots of people might think, oh, you drink so much. I really don't. Because I put it on my, at the minute, maybe not, because I don't go out or do anything anymore because of flipping lockdown. But when I'm on my tour, everyone's like, oh my goodness, you're drinking all the time. I'm drinking once every 1 to 4 weeks, whatever the difference was between my tour dates. Because day to day, I don't drink. I don't like to drink. I don't like the taste. It's just fun to have it in a fun time. Again, if you are relying on any of these things for happiness to numb yourself, don't use them to numb. I may be wrong on this. I'm not a life coach. This may seem like much of a life coaching video. That's not. I'm just talking. And if people want to listen, they can. I'm not saying this with any arrogance. You can disagree with anything you want in this video. You can ignore any of it. Or you can take something away if it just helps you think. That's all this is supposed to do. Damn it. I forgot what I was saying. Damn it. Think I was saying, flipping it, that you shouldn't drink to numb, deal with your problems, etc. Again, finding happiness. Oh yeah, that was it. Here we go. I was saying, I think it's okay to have a drink, to have fun, to celebrate. That's my personal opinion. People are like, oh, why do you need to drink? I don't. I didn't drink for many years at university when I was going out partying every night. No drugs, no drink, no nothing. Just life. In fact, caffeine, because I was drinking Diet Coke. I loved it. I was the last person at the party every time. I don't need it to have fun. But sometimes it's nice. It loosens everything up. It enhances things. It makes me more of me. Some people get personality shifts when they drink. That's not me. It makes me more of me. And I like me. Self-esteem. I'll finish on a little self-esteem note. I'll just finish that off by saying it's the reason you do these different things. If you're using things to numb, it's not a good thing for you. Deal with your... I don't know how that's going to come across on the podcast when you can't see me mouthing swear words. But anyway, you get the point. Final thing, self-esteem. Where does self-esteem come from? Self-esteem is not arrogance. It's not overconfidence. Having high self-esteem is not how great you are. That's a key thing to understand. Your self-esteem doesn't have to be how great you are, how rich you are, how good looking you are, how great your body is, how funny you are. Self-esteem comes from how much you can help others. At least that's what it should come from. Deep meaning, a belief in yourself of your self-esteem comes from how much can you do for others. The reason I have such high self-esteem, one of my quite close friends, she said to me, I don't believe you have super high self-esteem. I don't think anyone really has. I don't think that's true. This was someone who knew me quite well. And I was like, wow, that's so funny. And she said, it's nothing to do with you. I don't think you're fake. I don't think you're making it up. I just don't think anyone's self-esteem can be that high. And I was like, that's so funny because it's true. Because my self-esteem and how I think you should view your self-esteem is how much you can help others. And start realizing how much you can help others. Well, I'm not rich, Martin, so I can't give to charity. Okay, one, you can give to charity, probably. If you're listening to this on an electronic device, anything, the 10% option. Can you have anything less? Because to someone, giving them 50p or £1 will make a difference somewhere in the world. But two, I'm not clever. I don't know a subject. I can't help people with nutrition online, Martin, like you can. Again, it doesn't matter on those things. If you can see or speak or walk, you can probably help someone. If you are tall, you can probably help someone. If you can smile, you can help someone. You just need to find the thing that you are comfortable doing, or even put yourself outside your comfort zone. People call me extremely confident, right? Here's some truth. I'm going to put this on my story after I finish this video. Maybe I should write it down. Confidence. I always talk about this. Confident is situational. And I get huge adrenaline rush, anxiety. That makes it sound a bit extreme, but I get so nervous talking to people when they don't know I'm about to talk to them. So the specific instance I'm talking about is if someone is homeless and I feel led to give them something or help them or offer them some food. I'm so flipping nervous. I really want to do it, but I can't do it because I'm so nervous. And I've got dozens of times in my life where I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I bottle it. Can you imagine me, confident Martin McDonald, stand on stage in front of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people talking about anything, making a fool of myself sometimes, but I can't just walk up to someone and go, can can I buy you a drink or some food? And I think some of that is rooted in, I don't know, rejection, aggression that I feel I might get in response, maybe a feel of being patronizing, and just feeling awkward and uncomfortable. But it's super rewarding when I muster up the courage. How weak is that, right? But anyway, acceptance, it's just me, something I want to try and get better at. Confidence is situational. Self-esteem, there you go, that was my finishing point. Your self-esteem, you should base your self-esteem on how much you can help other people, and you can help other people loads. And when you do, you'll be happier. Woo-hoo, mic drop. That was a good little summary ending for something I didn't plan. I hope you're well. I hope you can ponder something about happiness. I hope this can bring you some happiness through the actions that you hopefully will take as a result of it. Much love.